Enough of this racket. Take that infant and go right now. My husband one night, deep in the middle of the night, had enough with our crying baby. He was screaming, and with that he kicked me and our 3-month-old baby out of the house. The mornings and evenings were already starting to get cold with the season of change, seeming as though rain would accompany us at any second. I'm freezing. We will die out here if we do not go. I started to feel cold as the chill penetrated my bones and have been without a wallet or coat. Please, let us in. But even as I pounded, there was no answer from within. I wrapped my crying baby as snugly as I could in her blanket to keep away the chill, and we kept going. At the very least, I have to protect my baby. Yet there I was, walking through the night, tired and freezing on a park bench. Looking up at the sky, events that led us to this point ran through my head. How did we get here? Tears that I could no longer hold back streamed down my cheeks. My name is Olivia, and I am 31 years old. My parents divorced when I was in middle school, and my mother single-handedly sent me to college. 2 years ago, while crossing a pedestrian lane, she was hit by a car and passed away. In exchange for a huge accident compensation, I lost my only family member, leaving me in a state of despair. During this time, Benjamin, who was my college classmate and now my husband, was there to support me. Olivia, you can always lean on me when times are tough. His kind words comforted my aching heart, and we started dating. A year later, he proposed, and we got married. I was grateful that we were blessed with a child so soon, and I thought we could build a happy family. I'm pregnant. We're already 3 months along. What? Are you serious? I thought he would be thrilled, but since he learned about the pregnancy, my husband strangely became distant. Not only that, his attitude became increasingly cold. What is this dinner? Isn't this just fast food? I'm sorry. Morning sickness hit me hard. I couldn't cook. If you can't even manage now, I worry about the future. Useless. The only thing I could do was watch my husband's back as he stormed off after his harsh words. Even when my belly became heavy and bending down became a challenge, he wouldn't lend a hand. So I believed that once our baby was born, he would return to his kinder self. After the birth, he visited the hospital right away. But after that, he never showed his face, claiming he was busy with work. When I was discharged, I had to take our daughter home alone, and that's when the real nightmare started. When my daughter and I got home, my husband began yelling loudly every night. The baby's crying is too noisy. I have work tomorrow. How am I supposed to sleep? I understand where my hard-working husband, who supports us, is coming from, but I can't seem to soothe our crying daughter. If only my mom was here. With each passing day, I felt a deepening rift between my husband and me, plagued by a sense of loneliness. Even though our daughter is very quiet during the day, when night falls, it's as if she senses her father's tense and angry mood and starts to cry. I don't know what to do anymore. This life is the polar opposite of the warm and happy family I envisioned. My husband leaves all childcare responsibilities to me, claiming he's busy with work. On his days off, he'd say he can't relax at home and would go out running around all day. Taking care of a baby left me exhausted, both physically and emotionally, and our daughter's night crying seemed to get worse each day, as if she could sense my distress. One night, my husband's anger reached its peak. Get out of this house with that baby, right now. I can't do that. Before I could finish my sentence, my daughter and I were thrown out into the cold night without keys, a wallet, or a cell phone. I couldn't go back home and was left feeling helpless. I wrapped my daughter tightly in a blanket to keep her warm, held her close, and just kept walking until I sat down on a bench, cursing my life. We were supposed to be happy. How did it come to this? As if expressing my inner turmoil, my daughter started crying again, but I was too worn out to move. Just as I was starting to feel faint from the cold, an older woman's voice called out, "Are you okay? Mom?" For a moment, I thought my deceased mother had come from the afterlife. I lifted my face to see a stranger looking worried. "What are you doing in such a cold place? My husband kicked me out because of our babies crying." "Did you two have a fight? You'll catch a cold here. Come stay at my place." But as I hesitated, not sure if I should impose on a stranger, she took my daughter from me, started soothing her, and my daughter suddenly became cheerful. "It's okay, don't worry. Let's go somewhere warm for the baby's sake." Upon entering the house, my daughter was gently wrapped in a soft blanket to ward off the chill. "Drink this to warm up," she said, offering a warm glass of hot milk. My daughter nestled in her arms, started to sleep peacefully, her gentle snores echoing in the quiet room. I can't believe it. No matter how much I tried, she just wouldn't calm down. It can be quite tough if you're not used to it. I recently became a grandmother, and I've been taking care of the little one occasionally. Maybe that's why I've become so sensitive to a baby's cries. I'm glad I decided to check on the noise. Looking closely at the woman, her gentle smile tugging at the corners of her eyes, she was around the same age as my mother. The warmth of her presence allowed me to feel at ease for the first time in a while. "I'm sorry for intruding like this." "It's okay. We should help each other out in times of need. Do you need me to take you home? Do you live close by?" "No, I might just get thrown out again." Seeing me stumble over my words, she kindly offered me to stay until morning. Her kindness moved me to tears again. "Thank you so much. My name is Olivia." "Wait a minute. Isn't your baby's name Anne?" "Yes. But how did you—" Turns out this woman was Jackson, my husband's direct superior. She had sent us a gift when our daughter was born, so she remembered Anne's name. I was surprised at the coincidence and regretted complaining about my husband to her. "We're always grateful for your help. The thing is, my husband has been busy with work lately, and he seems quite tired." "That can't be right. Your husband has been on parental leave for the past 2 months." "What?" "But he says he goes to work every day. He even said he has work tomorrow." "Tomorrow is a holiday. The office will be closed. I wonder what he's up to." I had no idea that my husband, who I thought was always working, was actually on vacation. However, I did notice a sense of excitement on the days he was supposed to be at work. Ever since I got pregnant, my husband's behavior had changed, and I had been feeling something off recently. As I wondered how to investigate my husband's actions, Jackson suggested an idea. "Why don't you check his social media? You can use this computer." She pointed to a computer in the corner of the room and turned it on. I gratefully accepted her offer and started scanning my husband's social media. To my shock, I found a pile of photos of him and another woman. He must have thought I was too preoccupied with parenting and housework to ever notice. "They look like a couple, don't they? That's Ava. She worked at our company for only 3 months and recently quit." No way. Although I had a hunch, I was too overwhelmed with my first experience of motherhood to consider it seriously. However, realizing he was truly having an affair was more shocking than I had anticipated. Do you know her address? Her contact information?" "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned her name. It's personal information, and I can't disclose it." "Oh, right," I deflated. Jackson comforted me. "I'll do everything I can to help with anything else." "Hey, isn't this the Paris Hotel? I know it's a fancy place, and you've been here several times. Do you have that much money?" True enough, there were numerous photos on social media of my husband and his mistress, the woman indulging in luxury dining at the renowned Paris Hotel. As I was on maternity leave, there was no income, and my husband hadn't saved any money once we got married. There was no way he could have such disposable cash. No way. This can't be happening. With a prayerful heart, I checked my bank balance online and found that my savings of $250,000, which I received when my mother died in a car accident, had been halved. I was so shocked that I was unable to move for a while. What's wrong? My husband has been using my savings without my permission. I hadn't touched it at all because I was planning to use it for our daughter. Looking back, I had left my debit card in the card case with my husband when I was hospitalized for childbirth. Since that day, he hadn't visited me in the hospital even once, and the first time he withdrew from my savings was the day I handed him the debit card. I, who trusted my husband, thought he had locked it in a safe and didn't doubt him. I can't forgive him. He's been using my beloved mother's inheritance without my permission. We must punish the lying cheater, and the best way to do that is to secure evidence. With a smirk on his face, Jackson handed me a digital camera. The next day, as we watched from the car Jackson was driving near our house, my husband, humming a tune, hopped into his car and drove off. He doesn't even worry about our daughter and me. Instead, he's making a fool of himself by being so excited. As expected, my husband's car arrived at the Paris Hotel. After a while, the mistress came, and they casually linked arms and entered the hotel restaurant as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I asked Jackson to look after our daughter and sat quietly in a seat behind them. I've had enough of Olivia's stubbornness. Finally, I kicked her out last night. Now she filed for divorce. I'll get the compensation she received from her mother's car accident. If things go well, I might even get the alimony from the divorce trial. You're a bad man. Your wife doesn't even realize that you're after her money. Since her mother passed away, I've been very kind to her so that she'll never find out. But having a child was an unexpected obstacle. Listening to my husband's unbelievable words, my head went blank from the shock. Unaware of my feelings, my husband, swinging the key to the hotel room, headed for the elevator with the woman. When I secretly followed them, even though it was just a brief moment before the elevator arrived, the two of them began to hug and even start kissing. Even though I was prepared, seeing the affair in action was painful. A chill ran down my spine at my husband's voice saying, "This is a pre-celebration for kicking Olivia out. Let's have a blast today." Unable to speak up, the two of them were swallowed up by the elevator. Left behind, I was so frustrated that I couldn't say anything, and I was overwhelmed with sadness and despair. I couldn't stand and fell to my knees right there. At that moment, the sadness that dominated my heart began to turn into a desire for revenge. It's too cruel to betray me like this. I can't just let this go. That evening, timing my return for when my husband got home from work, I made my way back to the house. "Whoa, look who's back. I'm sorry, I'll do whatever you say from now on. Please let me back in the house." To tighten the noose around him, I decided to play the part of the obedient wife for a little while, quelling my rising anger. "Fine. From now on, I'm not giving you any living expenses. Do whatever you want." Understood. Without uttering a single word of disagreement and not mentioning divorce, I was clearly annoying my husband. Despite his continued horrible attitude, I kept tolerating it. While my husband pretended to be at work but was meeting his mistress, I was searching the house for evidence of his affair. I found several receipts for hotels and meals in his bag and suit pockets. But that alone seemed like weak evidence. However, I traced social media under the woman's name, and her identity was finally revealed. 2 weeks later, all the preparations were ready, and I once again visited the notorious Paris hotel. The two of them were nonchalantly having dinner and getting cozy in public, as they did before. I approached them as they were about to get on the elevator. "What are you doing here? Why are you here?" "I am obviously here for a work meeting." Quickly shaking off the arm entwined with his mistress, my husband, looking guilty, tried to escape. "That's odd. Today's a day off, isn't it?" Hearing my strong, sharp voice, he turned around in surprise. "What? Jackson? You're supposed to be on parental leave, right? How come you're working?" "Ah, well." My husband, looking pathetic and flustered, had never dreamed I'd be with his boss. His mistress, the woman, also seemed quite surprised and was at a loss. "Hello, Ava. Long time no see." Yes." The mistress, called by name, seemed nervous and unsure of what to do, looking down. The strange atmosphere was palpable, and I could feel the surrounding people staring at us. "Since we're drawing attention, let's move this to the room you guys booked, unless you want me to scatter these photos around here. Is that okay?" As I showed the photos that proved their affair to my staggering husband, he quickly grabbed my arm and pulled me into the elevator. Jackson caught the fleeing mistress and brought her along. "Why are you with Jackson?" "The day you kicked me out, I had nowhere to go and was sitting in the park when Jackson heard our daughter crying and invited me in." "Seriously? It goes to show you can't do wrong and get away with it." Upon entering the room, I dumped all the evidence I had gathered onto the table, leaving the two of them in shock. "What? These photos. I was here the day after you kicked me out of the house. It was shocking, but I took these as evidence of your affair." "That's low. That's my line. Lying about work to meet your mistress and even taking parental leave. How despicable can you get?" My husband had no words for me, silenced by what I'd said, but I still had more to say. "I'm aware you used my savings without my consent. That money was a legacy from my mother. That's our shared property. I don't see an issue with me using it." "What? It's not shared property. It's mine and mine alone." "Really? Is that so?" "Yes, it is. So you will return the $120,000 you used." "Come on, we're married. Let's not get into such tedious matters." Exhausted by his indifference, I swiftly pulled out the divorce papers from my bag and slammed them on the table. "I'm fed up with you. Fill out these divorce papers immediately." "That's a leap, don't you think? Didn't I hear you say you wanted me to bring up divorce?" I played a recording of a conversation we had during a previous meal. His unbearable words echoed throughout the room. "Give me a break. Not a chance. To think you approached me just for my money." It all became clear after I heard our conversation from that day. That's why you became so cold all of a sudden. There's a lot to the situation. I don't want to hear any excuses or lies. Pay me $20,000 for the affair, $10,000 for all the times you mistreated me, $120,000 for the money you took from my savings, and $110,000 for child support until our daughter turns 20. That's a total of $260,000 in one lump sum. What? What mistreatment? You kicked me and our daughter out of the house in the middle of the night and didn't provide living expenses. He clearly didn't expect his actions to become grounds for financial restitution in a divorce proceeding. Sweating profusely, his desperate plea for calm was pitiful. Just calm down. Let's talk this out. Don't mock me and don't think you're out of this either. I'll be seeking $20,000 in damages from you too. When I pointed at his mistress, she turned pale. I have to pay too? Of course. But in return, I'm divorcing him, so you two can be open about your relationship. That should be a relief, right? This is a problem. I'm sorry. Forgive me. My desperate husband, his face a mess of tears and snot, was the most pitiful sight I'd ever seen, and it completely wiped away the last shreds of compassion I might have had for him. It's absolutely pathetic that he thought such a lie would work on me. We turned our backs on the sorry spectacle of those two and left the room. My husband was officially fired, losing not just his home, but his workplace too. I didn't want to see my husband ever again, so I arranged for a divorce through a lawyer. I demanded compensation for the divorce, the money he had squandered, and child support. His parents were furious with him, and since he couldn't pay all the compensation in one go, his father forced him to work in a mine. He would have his wages garnished to pay me back. I got an immediate payment of $20,000 from his mistress. My daughter and I left the house we've been living in, bought a small apartment, and started our new life. The moment we started living here, my daughter's night crying stopped completely. I'm really grateful for Jackson, who worries about us and calls us every now and then. Together with my daughter, I will build a happy, smile-filled home.